Aftercare After Dark is intended for mature audiences. If you're under the age of 18, we would ask you to leave this broadcast immediately and patiently await your formal invite to the grown folks table. We sometimes discuss topics that can be triggering for some. Please refer to the show's notes for episode-specific trigger warnings and resources. Thank you for listening.
So today we're talking about money, money in relationships, money in the pro-dom world. Introduce the topic.
Well, I think you just did it. So today's show is about money. It keeps coming up in conversation. It keeps coming up in chat. It keeps coming up on dates. It's all over the internet about who should pay for dates. And I thought we'd bring our perspective to it. We talk a little bit about the feeling of money, what money represents, how we feel about dating and money and whose pocket it comes out of for whatever particular reason. So to get us started, I thought we'd go back and visit a story that you told me about you dating an individual who didn't have it, who was broke.
Ugh. It's not my shining moment, but I wanted to prelude that story with I dated a gentleman years and years ago in my I was like 19 and 20. One time I wanted to go out to dinner, and then at the end of dinner I just looked at him and was like, "Hey, are you going to pay for that or not?" And he didn't, he was broke. He didn't say anything. He paid for dinner, but afterwards he kind of like vented his frustration and it came out that he was like struggling financially, so on and so forth. And that created a complex for me where I never wanted to feel like I was inconveniencing someone financially. So that created that precedent. So when I met this gentleman, our first date was, "Hey, why don't you pay for dinner and I'll pay for the hotel room?" So it just kind of like set the tone immediately of what this was going to look like. I felt that he was comfortable. He was comfortable that I was obsessed with him sexually, and I was. And that's when he dropped um, "Money's tight. Money's tight. I'm going through a divorce. XYZ. I don't have it." It became a pattern. It's just like I helped him. Woo! Shame. All the shame that I'm feeling right now.
Don't feel
I
ashamed.
I paid for because he was a personal trainer. I paid for an entire like 3-month personal training package, and it was like 2 grand. It was like 2 grand. I paid for a package to help him so I could help him financially. He's also like a really great personal trainer, and I wanted to do some bodybuilding. So I kind of used that as my excuse to do this. Guess what? I drove an hour to see him for these personal training sessions 3 times a fucking week. Okay. You're like wiping your nose, looking away. Listen, okay, listen. All right. Yeah. And just like full disclosure, it's really hitting me and I might cry. Like that was a thing. And then over time, I was like, you're still struggling financially. This is already a year into this, right? He had credentials that expired. I paid for him to get those credentials back online, back valid, so that he could apply for another job that was better paying, that had more consistency and more stability. So I paid for this guy and set him up with another job, and he was still broke. He was making money. He would tell me about his financial successes, but I still wasn't seeing a return of investment on my end. I was still paying for dinner. I was still paying for hotels. And I was like, in my head, I was happy to, but I started harboring resentment because he would show up with new shoes. He would show up with a new shirt. He would show
So
up
he
with
stole
like,
from you. That's basically what you're saying. He stole from you. He cried broke, but was not broke. He just did not choose to spend on you.
yeah, yeah. And again, this is that cool chick conversation we've been talking about. I've been the cool chick my whole entire life. I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need your money. I don't need that all that stuff, right? But like I was sinking and investing into this black hole of a fucking person. And he was quite literally sucking me dry. He didn't know this. I don't think my family knew this. I think they suspected, but like I started financially struggling myself, and that was when I decided. I was like, this isn't good for me. I need to stop, because every time he comes to me with financial problems XYZ, I would always make up an excuse or make up something to give him more money. Like, okay. And so like I started asking him to come over and mow my grass. I lived on an acre. It was a lot of grass. Guess what? This was part of his thing, but I still would send him $100. So that was like my most recent experience with that. It just left a taste. It left a very bitter, it did not leave a very great taste in my mouth. Let's just put it
Okay.
that way.
So you can ring the shame bells for me now. I don't feel terribly bad about this because I was 19. I was young. So it was my first relationship. It was the first time I really had a boyfriend. He was older, had a job, inherited a house. And the young feminist that I was, broke college student that I was, he explained to me he was a Jehovah's Witness. He was, and probably still is, like on that hustle on that hustle bus. Like he was selling Amway when we met. In fact, I'm pretty sure, because he would press me on this. And I was like, I don't like talking to people. I was very shy, like, well, I still am, but like terribly so. Like I could not approach another person and ask them to do anything. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not selling Amway. I don't believe it. It's a pyramid scheme, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. But we ended up being together for 4 years. He was a Jehovah's Witness, so he didn't buy gifts. But my love language is gift giving. So like I worked for an airline. I dropped out of school because I couldn't afford it. Started working full time, worked for an airline, and I would take him on these trips. It wasn't 50-50. I was paying for the ticket. When we got there, I was splitting the bill, but I would plan these vacations around his interests. So like we went to Amsterdam, but it was actually The Hague. Like we went to jazz festivals because that was his thing. He played the sax, the people pleaser. I like giving gifts. I like giving of myself. I'm a generous person. Every birthday he got something. We went on these trips, and most of that money came out of my pocket. And he cheated on me every minute that he possibly could. So that was one. Two, my ex-husband. That was financial abuse. I was the only person making money for the last 4 years of our marriage. He was taking that money and spending it. I had nothing. I had nothing. I went to work every day and there was nothing there. He had all of these baseball cards and he had a car that I couldn't even drive because it was a stick and I didn't know how to drive a stick. He had his golf clubs. Golf is expensive. I didn't play golf. That wasn't a we thing. He just took my money. He started having a gambling problem. He opened up lines of credit in my name I didn't know about. At the end of the day, after the divorce, I was in a hole and I didn't spend any of that money, like not a single solitary dime. I was working full time. I had my daughter, and that was my daughter. It wasn't ours. Like the deal was that he would take some time and find himself after we got out of the service, and he would do the child rearing and the housework. Did he do any of that? No. She went into daycare 3 weeks later. No, he did not take care of house. He got his real estate license and then it was something else. And then he was going to be a cop. It was a lot of things. When people ask me, there were a lot of awful things that happened in that relationship. I'll tell you, I left him because of the money. I left him because of the money. I didn't have anything to show for all of that work that I was doing. And for the life of me, I was like, I grew up poor. I grew up in poverty. I grew up not having. And to be an adult who is responsible, who's frugal, who had dreams and goals and aspirations for not only my life, but the life of my daughter. I was going nowhere. And, I was like, I can't do this. I cannot be a responsible adult and in poverty like this. So I left that relationship. And ever since, I have a reaction to paying for dates. I've done it. I've split the check because it sat there for too long. And this is before this iteration. I make it clear for the 8 months and the celibacy, I would go on a date every once in a while and that check would sit there and it would be awkward and it'd be like, you want to split it? And we'd be like, okay, cool. And then I'd get a phone call later and I would look at the phone because I was turned off. I was turned off. I couldn't articulate at the time what it was, but I had an emotional reaction to splitting the check. And I always thought about this. I was like, oh, I'm a bad feminist. I'm a bad feminist. But No, I'm not. So that's the history. That's the history of where we came from as two adults. The cool girl, the chill girl, she's been neglected. That's what that girl is. So if you're out here listening and you think your girlfriend's cool or that she's chill, she doesn't know how to ask for her needs. That's what that comes from.
I used to pride myself on that fucking label. I'm low maintenance. I don't need a whole lot. I don't like you'll never catch me with nails done, fucking hair did, face did. I was like, "Shh, that's look at me now."
I
Yeah.
didn't take pride in it. Like it was something that actually kind of bothered me because especially when I was in the service, I was cool, right? I was that chill girl. Why can't you be like her? Like people used me as the example for other women. So they pitted me against other women because I was so damn that's cool. And I hated every second of it because I don't like that separation from other women. I don't like that comparison. I don't like that isolation. It was something that I really did not like. And somebody had the audacity, these dudes out here with the audacity. I have a theory. Axe body spray has the audacity pheromone. It brings it out. It brings it out. I have trigger words. Calling me chill. Oh, I like you because you're so chill. No, no, I'm not chill. Again, carefree versus intensity. I'm intense. I'm intense. Okay. And I will bring the fire. Like I can be calm. I can be calm, girl, but I ain't cool.
Remember I told you that gentleman stopped me at the bar just that was last week? Stopped me right outside the women's restroom and was asking to talk to me. And I remember in one of the, I could barely hear him, but I did remember like, you seem like a nice girl. And I just looked at him. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not. And I just walked off. But yeah, I'm also like learning from you too. So like the whole like paying for dates thing, it was never a black and white standard for me until talking to you. Like it was never something that
You're
was
welcome.
like
No.
set in stone for me.
Yeah.
It
No.
was just never something that was like set in stone for me. It wasn't a standard that I had set for myself because I just didn't realize that it should be. But yeah, it needs to be. It needs to be. If you're out here looking to take up a woman's time and I'm showing up looking like a meal and looking like a snack, pay for fucking dinner.
And it's not even that. And I see it from, people in good relationships and good marriages. The woman is responsible for the social life of that relationship. She starts conversation, she keeps conversation going. If there are people over, she hosts. And by hosting, it doesn't mean that I sit on the couch and hold forth, like all of the men that I see, all of
We're
your
making sure that
partners.
everyone's needs are met. We're
Right.
making sure that
So,
conversation is being divided
right.
equally and that nobody's left out.
So you're both professionals, but carrying that water of being social is something that is expected. It is a skill. So when we talk about women's work, when we talk about emotional labor, a fine example, go to someone's house and the male partner will sit. The woman partner is always moving, bringing food, setting things up, making sure people are comfortable. Like if there are kids around, making sure they're entertained. 100% in every relationship that I've been around. So if you've invited me to your house, I'm watching. I look around at the pictures hanging on the wall. There are tons of pictures of your spouse, your male spouse, with your kids. You're not in the picture. This is why, like, whenever I go out and I see a woman alone with her kid, I offer to take a picture. And I live like in a touristy area where people come for the nature, for the scene. I live near the Hudson River. Anytime I see a woman with a child, I ask her. I will like that's my extroversion for the day. Like I will go up to her and ask her if she wants a picture with her kid because I don't see women in the pictures. So for me, my very elegant way of thinking and how I approach even dating, courtship is important. The things that make me feel like I'm in a relationship is that I'm valued, that you solve problems for me and you teach me something that I do not know. I can list those off because I was asked very plainly, what is going to make you like me? It came right naturally. I need to feel like I'm valued. And the smallest gesture is picking up that check. To date, there hasn't been a conversation via chat, through these online things, even when I'm out in, like when I'm out at events in community, that I am not doing the work of getting to know you. Not a single one in all of these. I'm keeping track. Someone was like, "You keep score?" I do. I do. Okay. I'm keeping score. I am looking at what I'm expending, energy wise, creatively, because I'm a writer. And whether it goes on paper or if it goes into a scene, I am thinking about another person's enjoyment. The very least that you can do is pick up the check. I feel some kind of way about it. I've said it. I've missed out on dates because of it. I'm not splitting the check. That's my stance.
I told you about my friend, and this was just around year one of my sub-dom relationship with the broke gentleman that I told you about. And so we went out, we had dinner, and the check comes out, and just as I was reaching for the check, his hand comes out and snatches it. That shit made me so fucking wet. I was
Is
like,
it?
oh. I've never had a gentleman snatch it. I've had my girlfriends snatch checks from me, but I have never had a gentleman, or at least one that I could think of. And I have to say this is the first one because it just stood out. It stood out in stark contrast. He reached out and just snatched it right before I could even touch it. And then the next time I saw him, I invited him up to my area. I say I treated him out to dinner. So when the check came, like I snatched it, and he was hurt. He was offended. He was, and this is like I'm okay with spoiling people like that. Show me that, and there's like I will bend over backwards to spoil you. you
And
know,
that's the thing, like, somewhere in there, I'm going to do something really special and it's going to come out of my pocket. It did with Dimitri. I was like, oh, he's treating me well. I really enjoy his company. On my dime, let's get this room, really like expensive hotel room, and do it up for a weekend. Let's do that. So that came straight out of my pocket because I like treating people. It is, like it's not the BS love language. And you can actually say like a close second is acts of service. I will help you out. I solve problems for a living. That's what I do.
mm-hmm.
That's what my brain wants to do. It wants to solve problems.
We're both wired to care and nurture people. And one of the easiest way that we can do that is to spend money on them. And just like you, like I grew up with poverty. I grew up watching my mother beg and cry and do all these things just to get my dad to give her money for us to get school clothes. I witnessed financial abuse. And so to be in this day and age where I don't have to worry about money anymore, it's not something I stress over. Like I love that for myself.
I realized this time around, one, I am completely and totally unafraid. Like completely until I've been living alone for entirely too long to be afraid of being alone. It wasn't a source of discontent with me. Most of my single life, and I've been single for 17, 18 years now, I haven't even thought about relationships. I had other things to do, my education and getting out of debt and raising my daughter and, buying my house and then buying my second house. I had things to do. Like I realized that I was lonely at one point. And then I said, I'm going to do something about it. So I went out and did it. But like what I'm not doing is what I used to do. And this is in the way back machine with me was feeling like I owed my partner something for accepting me as I am. I was told from a very young age that one, I was ugly. Like I got bullied, I got teased. It was the first thing that anybody would go for would be my looks. When I was a kid, I was told that I had a hard personality, that I was hard to get along with, that came from inside the house. Like, you're never going to get a man if you continue with your opinions and saying what you think and reading and, like all of the things that make me me, I was told were so off putting that I was lucky if anybody would accept me. And I went into my relationships thinking that I owed these individuals something because I wasn't good enough for them. I wasn't good enough for anybody. That's what I grew up with. That's what I went into these relationships with. So the money thing, the giving thing, the extending myself, and I would have three relationships of note, and each one of them I had this like moment of clarity, like, what do I even really want to be here? Like I had these moments where like, why am I here? I'm just doing this thing and I'm giving to individuals who just take. So I've been taken advantage of and taken for granted. I'm finding out now that not only am I special, I'm also unique in a way. And that has value. And that has value. So why would I pay for a date? Why would I?
I would like for you to not say that you're unique in a way. You are unique, period. Period. But like that's the thing, like it's the woman's job. And this is obviously like people are gonna not like this, but like it's our job to create atmosphere. It's our job to create a theme, right? It's our job to create a space where people feel like comfortable, cared for, heard, seen, like valued and all those things. Those are like all the intangible things that
They're
we
called
bring.
soft skills, and they're called soft skills because we feminize them, right? But they are skills that people don't have.
They are just as important.
They are the backbone for these things. And I say to myself, regardless of how relationships end with me, I've never left anybody worse off. Now they feel terrible. Okay, they may feel terrible, but I did not take, I have not used. So this rolls into the thing that keeps coming up for me in my interactions. I have it in the text. Like I was bothered by this individual. Our whole relationship lasted for like 6 hours. It was 6 hours. It started on field. I liked them. We back and forth in the text, gave them my number. I said, you know what? I'm going to be busy for the next week, but I like meeting people and you are relatively far away. Why don't we do a video chat? And we did a video chat and that went well. And then we were back to texting. The funny thing is, as I said before, keep score. There were a lot of things I need time to process. I need time to process. So there's this flurry of activity and I'm thinking to myself, there's something about this person's disposition as a sub that I do not like. What is it? And it was topping from the bottom, which is fine if that's what you agree to. But I have not entered my brat taming phase as of yet, except for you. But I haven't, I'm not there right now. Like if we are seeking a dynamic and you tell me that you are a sub, I make it very clear that's what I'm looking for. And we do the negotiations, which I love. I'm here. Some people are only here for the aftercare. I'm here for the negotiations. I like negotiating these things. So there was something that was bothering me. It was topping from the bottom, telling me what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. No, no, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. So I wrote back to this individual. I don't think we're a match.
Very good match. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I showed you the text. The receipts are there. The
Yep.
receipts are there. It was nice meeting you. I don't think we're a good match. Polite. And, I wish you the best of luck in your dating endeavors. Oh boy, lost his mind. Flurry of texts. I think you're married. You should have said that you were married. And this money thing, because I did mention in the text, when I'm out, I don't want to worry about money. Mind you, this is a white man who works in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? He was talking about how he works with neurodivergent individuals for hiring and so forth and so on. He himself has ADHD and identifies as such. And he got mad. You're married. You're hiding something. And you should have mentioned while we were on video chat about the money thing. And I was like, one, it didn't come up in natural conversation. And two, what would it look like if I got you on camera, started talking about money? That would be funnier than me doing it in a text, right? Right? Men do not believe that I have this stridency. They don't believe it. They believe that it's being said to me somehow. So it was like, I think you're married. And this money thing, it's odd. It's weird. And
Such a turn off.
Yeah.
It's such a turn off. This idea that women can't be well-rounded, well-educated, assertive, no nonsense, firm, fucking standing on business.
No, he really think he thought that there was somebody listening in, like I was married.
This is what you call it's my daddy that you're fucking is what you're feeling.
Yeah, my daddy energy.
my inner my inner daddy. Call me sir.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I was like, the vitriol and the like, that's odd and that's weird. And I put it in words because I've been thinking about this for a long time. Equality and equity are not the same thing. They are not. Okay. We come to the tables as equals, regardless of what your orientation is. But for the male species out there, y'all have all of the equity. Okay. This costs. We pay more for the clothes on our back. So, like, you have the equity. This world is built for you. The way that I am in a relationship is not like that. There's a lot that goes into all of this, even a first date. Like going through the conversation, points of interest. If it gets silent in there and it's awkward silence and we need to talk about things, having the questions at the ready for like what are you thinking? Like, how are you feeling? So forth and so on. I do that work. These men do not. They do not. To a
Remember,
T. Like, they don't do it.
about this new gentleman, the one that who
Mm.
came out to the munch. And I told you, I was like the idea of a person is much more appealing. And then you meet them in person, and it's just like, it's kind of like that because conversation via text before we met was flowing. After we met, awkward silence. During the meet, awkward silence. And like even now with texting and shit like that, I'm also like low energy too. So my social energy is pretty low. So my desire to talk to anyone is just restricted to you right now. And so I quite literally don't have any gas for it to entertain anyone else.
Yeah.
That's just how that goes. I can see me, and that's something I'm catching on to quickly. It's just like a lot of this dead space. There's a lot of dead space interacting with these people, and I'm the one having to come up with topics, come up with questions to facilitate an experience. uh,
Yeah.
uh,
No. So, yes, I have been in financial straits because of love or whatever. And I'm not doing that again. I'm what they call a solo poly. I am not moving into your house. That's not my end game. I've got my own house. This is my house. Nobody gets to be in here like for any length of time. Nobody gets to be here. Okay. Like, you can come visit, but you've got to leave. Like, I'm not moving in with someone. I'm not having any more kids. I'm not going to be a drain on your resources later on in life. I've got my own. I also empathize. I've been broke. I've been broke as a joke. But you know what? I wasn't doing when I was broke? Dating. I was not bringing my
you know,
terrible
I
financial
fucking
situation
I
into this. I was not dating.
I
I was
took that.
working.
I took that of yours and tucked it in. And the last gentleman I told you about, this gentleman who's dating, was telling me about how he was broke. And I said, I quite literally quoted Yolanda. I was like, you know what I did when I was broke? I didn't date. And then he went, touche, touche. I said something about having a job is superficial. And you're just like, what? 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 If you're out here dating, you need to fucking have a job. How is that superficial? How have we been conditioned to think that having a job is superficial? And so like it's the same thing here. Like, how have we been conditioned to think that like you should be out here dating while you're broke? It's a game. This is the dating game. If you want to play the game, you need to be financially stable and financially secure, you
With
know?
me anyway. I mean, some people don't care. And I've
And
I've
my
had
thing
those
is, and that's
conversations.
fine,
That's
and that's
fine.
fine. And my thing is like, don't date above your pay grade. That's just how that goes. Date in your lane. Date in your lane. Like we come in, what do I look like? I look well kept. I got nice clothes on, nails. Sometimes my nails are did, sometimes they're not. But I'm quality. I come in and everything about me screams, I take care of myself. And so if I come in and I look at you and your t-shirt is ripped, and you got stains and shit like that. Like I've got clothes like that. They're at home. I wear those at home when I'm like walking around outside doing laundry or doing gardening and shit like that. It's just yet another reason why somebody would say some shit like, "Oh, you're shallow, you're superficial because you're looking at these things." And I'm like, if you're interested in me, if you want to pursue me, if you want to have sex with me and you want to have access to me, who am I? Looking at me, I take care of myself. What does that say about how I'm going to treat the people around me and the people in my life? I take care of you too. That is the nonverbal, untangible things that my appearance says. I take care of myself, in which case that's a reflection of how I can take care of others around me. So if you come in here looking and smelling like neglect and low effort, why? Why would I want to entertain that? Why is it my responsibility to
Because
entertain that?
you're a woman. But I like the funny thing is I have been flirting and I've been flirting heavily. Like, well, I've been trying to flirt heavily. Flirting with women is like difficult. I know I'm gonna meet my girlfriend in the wild. Like online, it's weird. It is weird. Somebody will hit me up with hi, and I will find their profile if they match with me. I will find their profile. I'll read their profile. I will mention something in their profile to get the conversation going. What'd you match for?
If you ever get around to, I don't know if this is on the horizon, but if you ever get around to like hosting a munch in your area or starting a munch in your area, make it some sort of ladies munch, like a femdom. Make it some sort of ladies
No,
only
I was
theme.
actually it's in the works. It actually is in the works, but it has nothing to do with lifestyle. But I want to start having gatherings. Like I realized that yeah, I've been here for a year, well actually like almost 2 years, and I have been dating, but I haven't done the community building that I want to do. So like it's on the horizon. Let's say I sat across from a woman who was my peer, right? We are in the same tax bracket. Would I have the same stance? No. No, I wouldn't. But I also know I wouldn't be doing that work. When I go out with my girlfriends, we split the check and we have a great time. And I think if I have a girlfriend, it's just really not in me. My whole life has been caregiving, and I don't want to be financially responsible for another human being. I don't think, my daughter got the last of it. Like, I don't think I want to take care of somebody that way. But like, like if it's a girl, I'll 50-50. Like we can
If I'm on the will and I am your beneficiary, then I'll consider it.
yeah. Like, and the funny thing is like I see it all over the internet. These guys with their damn ass microphones, like screaming about submit, and I like, like all of this stuff, and it leaks into the culture. It leaks into the culture of dating. So you have a lot of these dudes who say dumb things to me, like, out in the wild, like, you're trying to kick it, and it's all about that submit. I know what I'm talking about, and they want to preach to you about like, I don't know, some nonsense about like whatever. You don't know me from Adam, but you are already talking to me about the patriarchy and how the women out here are out of control with their demands and the things and wants and needs and so forth and so on. And I look at it like, sir, I don't know what about my face is that I'm sympathetic to that. I'm not. I'm not.
I love
But I
that
get
for
it.
us.
I know. Oh yeah, like no, I'm one of them bitches. Sorry, not sorry. I am one of those bitches. And these doms, these doms on field, like pictures of you standing in front of an air mattress, bare walls, the damn ass t-shirt, sweat stained t-shirt, like all of the nonsense, talking about submit. And I'm like, for what? For what? For what? Like, what am I submitting? And you've read my profile, which has absolutely nothing about submission in it for me. I took away, like, I had versatile on there. I took that off. I took that off. It's an invitation for these doms.
They're obsessed with the idea because I have like the Asian fetish going on for me. So like
Yeah.
people, men especially, are either obsessed with the idea of an Asian dom or obsessed with the idea of an Asian woman submitting to their sexual things. I think that I do a pretty decent job portraying the things that I do online as I don't submit.
Mm.
I'm like, I mean, I do, but you don't need to know that. I submit to my big sister, to the people who
Yeah, and
take care of me.
And I've been questioned about this. I'm different when when I'm flirting with women, when I am naked with women. It's a different energy. I'm a different person. I am versatile when it comes to that. I have not met the force of nature in a male form that is going to top me. Like, I just haven't met them yet.
She who will not be topped. Okay, this
I,
is our 2024 theme.
yeah,
She who will
like,
not be topped.
and I know that I have met a couple of men that I would have no problem saying sir to when I was in the Marine Corps when I was 23. I'm 48 now. You can't tell me shit. You cannot tell me anything about myself. You really can't. Like, quite literally, I've been made to feel so bad about my disposition for so long. I did not share my true self with people. I had no swagger, or I didn't think I had swagger. Apparently, I've always had swagger, but like, the Riz, as we say, say some dumb shit to me. That's my kink. Say some dumb shit to me. I got words. I got words for you. And it's always a sir. It's always a sir. Like, oh no, 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 no.
No,
So
because it's
yeah,
like
like,
that side of me comes out when I'm dealing with boys who don't measure their words, who don't think about their actions, because like that's your daddy's job. Your daddy's job was to teach you how to fucking act. Your mommy's job was to do things for you. To do things for you. And so when I get fucking men who very much exude the whole like, oh, validate my feelings. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that because what you're doing is stupid. I'm not going to validate your stupid feelings because your stupid feelings and your stupid actions don't match. So that side of me is not going to come out. The side of me that's going to come out is sadist. And also like separation of church and state, like we said in a couple of our podcasts, people who approach you in these spaces aren't approaching you because they desire a partner and a relationship. They're approaching you because they desire to be served. They want to be served. They want their fantasies to be served. They want their sexual desires to be served. And it goes back into the whole like, this is why I don't I no longer, I will no longer with people exploring the kink space who are coming into the kink space because there's a lot of deprogramming that they have to go through. So people who are transitioning into exploring kinks, right, and the fetish lifestyle, they're coming from the vanilla into the thing. So a lot of what we've encountered are people coming into the kink space through the swinger space, which is a completely different experience because it gives them a false sense of access. It gives them a false sense of access to sex from women. There's no correlation that the only reason why you have that access is because of the space that you're in. That is what people in that space is looking for. Outside of those spaces, that is not the reality. Okay.
And I've had a couple of conversations. These people don't make it out of chat. And I think I am no longer going to entertain anyone who has interest in MMF as a single or FMF as a single. So like those individuals, we're going to call them bulls. Okay, bulls that are looking to settle down, they do not know how to talk to a woman. Like, they are used to these hot wives. They are used to, the cup individuals. They spent their 20s and 30s and now they're 40 looking at me like, oh, she's wifey material. No, not nope, 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 nope. So like they spent their time partying. Even in the vanilla world, right? These dudes were just giving it away, hoeing around, doing whatever. They do not know how to relate. They really don't know how to talk to women. They just don't. So they've been spending their time in this dynamic in which they are on the ready
being
at the
used,
call, being used, being used, and now like they're tired of it, which is good for you for the evolution. You need therapy for that mindset that like what happens in the real, like, like you were in that space, you were in the swinger space unpartnered for a decade or longer, so you are used to just showing up, getting naked and getting it on. That's not how
You're
that
not used to
works.
wooing. You're not used to wooing anyone. You're not used to courting anyone. You're not used to getting to know someone. You're not used to building rapport.
Yeah, so
Uh,
like I have wasted some time, in chat with these individuals, and I'm like, it is doing work for free. Like we've been talking for the last couple of days. I need to make plans for a date. I am very direct now. Like I don't mince words. I can still flirt. And I used to make this whole thing about like, oh, in order to flirt, you have to be coy and you have to have the double entendre. There's a way to flirt with like my directness that is also cool too. Like
I was gonna
I'm
say
learning.
coy. I don't think I've ever done the flirting coyly.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Well, I
I'm
used to.
flirt.
I used to make, attempts at it. And like now I don't. And like, yeah, in my profile it says I would rather meet sooner than later. Now sometimes life happens, video chat, but I do need to see you, to smell you. I need all of those things. And these individuals couldn't put together a plan. I was like, okay, if you can't do that, I'll do it, but you need to commit to time and place. And, like earnestly could not fathom spending a few hours with someone getting to know them. They were really thinking they're going to go out into the dating streets. Not Field is not a hookup app. Go out into these dating streets and get the same access to a woman's body that they got when they were sleeping with married women.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, you saw it, the dissonance there, like deprogramming. And these are people who are just like going around looking for love in all the wrong places, and they like can't figure out why they can't get a good one. I was like, yeah, because the good ones run away from you. The good ones smell you, just get one whiff of you and say, I'm out.
Yeah.
That's
And
how that works.
okay, so let's move on into the pro. Let's move on into the pro thing. I have a date later on, and it has been very slow moving. It has been very slow moving. We are both new to the dynamic that we're trying to create. I like this person, but I don't want to mess it up. Like, so I am very careful, more careful than I usually am with my communication. I am very careful about reading their temperament. We've been out a couple of times. We're going out again. I'm looking forward to it, but it's nervy because what I feel from this person is that they want to ask me a question that everybody else has asked in very poor taste. And I kind of just want to put it on the table. No, I'm not a pro, but I've been asked a lot, a lot.
I've been asked a lot,
Um,
and at this point, it's only a matter of time before I go pro.
I'm like, I have an interest in it. I do. I'm not going to lie. But this year of dating was just for that. Can I find the relationship model that works for me? Like, what do I want out of a relationship? What makes me feel good in and out of bed from another person or persons,
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
like,
so I'm getting
so
like service submissives. That's definitely like the type of subs that I want. Service submissives. Can it be sexual? Yeah, when I decide it to be. But for the most part, like show up for me, do things for me, make my life easier, cater to me, and I'll take care of you. That's how that goes. And
yeah.
I'll take care of you. I take very good care of people. You know this.
Yeah. And for me, in order to not be messy about that, it would have to be like a client thing. Like, like we sign a contract. This is, what we're doing. It's not open ended. There's nothing nebulous about it. There's nothing nebulous about it. I need that to be firm in order to make that work. Now, Field is not for sex work. And if you're on there doing that, I don't know, maybe some people are. I know that men have one, I don't think there are as many quote unquote bots out there as they think. There are just a lot of women who become very disinterested when you do not respond to that. It's one word answers from you. It's your communication. And you think you're talking to a machine because it does not give you 7 paragraphs and a thesis after you announce that you're here. So like I think there are bots on these sites, but a lot of men, rather than doing the introspection that they need to do about their interactions online, like I said, I was in chat with an individual. You're married. Have you done sex work? There was 100 reasons why, other than the ones that I stated. There were 2 reasons, and I was very clear. You came back at me with every other reason other than the sun for why it didn't work out, except for the ones that I clearly stated to you. I don't understand. So it had to be that I
It's
was married.
projection. It's
Yeah,
projection.
like
It's
yeah,
self-centeredness. They don't know how to consider somebody else's opinions. They don't know how to listen to someone else's feedback. They don't quite literally, they cannot remove themselves from the conversation.
and they can't
Everything is
think for
about them.
whatever particular reason that they might have a deficit. Like it might be that.
It completely like
Yeah.
it's this is that narcissistic trait. Whether you're a narcissist or narcissistic, there are two different things, but still, like you cannot fathom, just can't fathom that maybe something's wrong with you.
Like,
Sorry, I
and
should stop
I
saying that,
no,
but I
but
don't.
I we
Something's wrong
we
with you.
we send the memes back and forth to each other, but like you cannot tell any of these men that there's something wrong with them. There's a loneliness epidemic. I've been lonely.
Oh,
I've been lonely
oh,
for, I know, I've been lonely
okay.
for my entire life. I've been part of some out group for my whole entire life. When the pandemic hit, I felt it, even though, like introversion is, that's my normal state. I live in my head. I can entertain myself forever. Like I can do that. You know what I did? I went and learned how to make friends online. I got online, I got active in the communities. Instead of just being passive, I went out there and started commenting on the videos that I like. I have made friends out of creators. We talk offline. We have a relationship. We have friendships. I travel to see them. Like they travel to see me. So these are full bodied. It's not parasocial. Like these are real, like we text each other. And that was something that I struggled with. I went and did that. I put myself out there and I felt like an asshole half the time. And it was embarrassing. I went and made myself better. Why can't these dudes do the same? No, no, no. Let's go to the gym
Because they
some
want
more.
mommy. They want mommy. They
you know,
want mommy. We're both wired in a way to where if we're presented with a problem, we are solutions focused. We are goal oriented and we are solutions based and solutions focused. And I see this all the time. Women too, but I don't talk to those women. Those women don't try to fucking approach me. I see this all the time. They project the problem. They have no comprehension on what the actual real problem is. It's always their projection of it. And if you dare say anything that contradicts that, it's it becomes, oh, you're just being combative. It's an argument, but it's this whole idea like my truth versus your truth. I'm not denying that this is your projection of that, but you're also refusing to validate my side. So like that's not how this works. How this works is we both strive to understand each other, and come to a solution. But I see this all the time. They don't know how to diagnose the actual problem. Everything is always a projection of what they think the problem is. And then they just hyper focus on that. They don't know how to think through to get to the solution. They don't know how to work through problems, you
but it's
know.
also laziness. Like I was born with a certain set of genitals and I don't have to work. Especially not for a woman. Oh God, no. I don't have to work on myself.
Some of it is laziness. I don't see that a lot. I think some of it's laziness, and a lot of it's just like, what's the word? Learned helplessness, incompetence, weaponized incompetence, weaponized incompetence, and learned
Yeah.
helplessness because they've had their mothers do everything for them. That's just how that they've had their mothers solve all of their problems for them, and they're looking for that in their future partners, and
That's
that's not how
that's the
partnership
that's the thing.
works.
That's not how partnership works. And so like, going back to the point about equity and equality, we come to the tables as equals. Partnership, equity, investment of some kind from both parties.
Yeah, I'm not fucking with people transitioning into the kink space from the vanilla space because people who are coming into the lifestyle are not treating these alternative relationships, the alternative lifestyle as something serious, you know, as
I don't,
relationships
I think they're serious. I think they just don't
they
know.
value. They're not treating it as something to be honored. They're not treating it as something to be invested in. They're not treating it as something to take care of. They're treating it as something They need to fucking get their socks knocked off and move on. And so
Yeah.
like that's why I'm like I don't mess with these people transitioning, looking to explore themselves, because you know what that means to me? That means I'm the one doing the emotional labor for you to learn about yourself.
And by the way, there's a fee for that. I can do that work all day long.
That's I'm the one doing the labor for you to learn your boundaries and your limits and your things and stuff like that. And there's a risk for that. There's a risk for that.
Pop culture, and I was telling you this, like I sent a dating update text to my friends, and they were like mind blown, like, oh my God, it's so exciting. And I was like, it sounds way more exciting just because of the terminology, right? It
Yeah.
sounds way more exciting than it is. I'm a person that, like, if we are dating, if I say I'm dating you, then like we have negotiated what our dynamic is. We've done the interview, we've done the temperament, we've done the tests to make sure that this is what you want. We've done the tests internally for me. This is what I want from you as far as the dynamic relationship is concerned. And it's only happened 3 times. Like it's not that willy-nilly hanging from the ceiling, like all of this stuff. My pictures give a view into the life. They're pictures, they're professional pictures. Like that's not what I'm out here doing. Like I'm as careful and as thoughtful, in fact 10 times more so, because there is risk involved, because like boundaries and consent is at the forefront of everything that we do. But there are people, one, who are practitioners who've not done the required reading. This is, like my distaste for being in community is that like you've been doing something wrong for the last 25 years. And no one has told you. No one has told you that like, the mindset and the way that you go about practicing sounds like
Yeah.
abuse.
And these are these are alternative relationships. They're alternative lifestyle, which means they're just outside of the norm. That's all that means. And so like alternative relationships still should be cared for, nurtured, honored, valued the way traditional relationships are. The problem is like these motherfuckers are coming into it thinking that they're going to get sex out of it. In traditional relationships, you had to court somebody. They had to be your girlfriend. They had to be your wife for you to have access to their vagina, to have access to sex. Guess what that came with? Investment of time, energy, effort, right? You show up, do things for them, show up, do things with them, make their lives easier, be there for them. But there's a dissonance and there's a disconnect with these people coming from the traditional lifestyle into the alternative lifestyle, and they think it's a game. It's all fantasy because of porn. They don't like it's all fantasy because of porn. And it's just like, no, these are real people. These are real feelings. Love and care, those are feelings, you know? And so if that's not what you want, if you have no intention of treating this dynamic with honor, care, and respect, there's a fee for that. There's a fee for that. And that is why I now have a standard. I'm like, I don't with inexperienced subs, experienced subs only. Because if you're learning about yourself, that puts the responsibility onto me to find out for you that you need therapy. That's
I
and
know.
that's like
I'm not telling anybody they need therapy, because I've had like a lot of these men in these dating streets have been to therapy, and you know what they've learned to do? Weaponize that talk. Like like they were just taking notes on how to argue better. I'm like, you learned absolutely nothing. I spent my time in therapy working on myself, working on my self-esteem, working on figuring out what my desires, wants, and needs are, and how to communicate them, and all of it. Okay. Like, and it's taken years. What I don't do is walk around, talking about all of that's internal to me. So the fact that you are coming out of the side of your mouth about making space and this, like all of the therapy talk means that you were just trying to figure out how you can use this to manipulate somebody else. Mm-mm-mm. No, that's not emotional intelligence.
like I
It's
said,
just it's just more vocabulary. But
putting these guys in the same sentence as manipulation, that's too much mental effort and mental labor that they know what to do with, honestly.
like, okay, so
they
we were
don't
gonna have to
know.
beg
They
to
don't
differ. They do know, like they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Some, like, I caught on to different tactics that they will use to confuse you or to move you off your mark or try and move you off your mark or try and make you
Yeah.
feel insecure.
The only reason why I argue against that is because to know what you're doing takes the level of self-awareness that these motherfuckers don't have. That's all. That's the only reason why I say that. These guys don't know themselves. They're not self-aware. They're not aware of their actions. They're not aware of the manipulations.
Yeah, they are, because in order to tell a lie,
because
you have to know what
nobody
the
ever
truth is.
called them out on it. Nobody calls them out. You know what I don't do anymore? I don't, when, like you said, the person that lasted 6 hours, when he's like, when you were giving him all the reasons why you guys don't work out, I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. I'm like, I want you to keep your toxic behavior so that you can keep doing it.
No,
I don't
like
call people
so
out.
yeah, like one of the promises that I made to myself, like, say proper goodbyes, because I hate being ghosted, so I don't want to do that to anybody else. So
Right.
I say,
They're like,
I say that.
hey, we're not a good match. I wish you all the best. You're not ghosting them. But the whole
That's
like,
true.
well, why? Well, why? Why do you think we're not a good match? People who ask you why, I'm telling you, 99.999% of the time, they're not going to listen. They're just going to throw things back into your face because
Sure.
that's just how they're wired. Like I said, I've been doing this going on 4 years. I can count on one finger how many people have actually been receptive to my feedback. And that was an in-person conversation. Over text, it's way too easy for motherfuckers to dismiss that shit and whatever. So I don't ever explain. And if anybody legitimately wants to know what was wrong with their behavior, you can sign up for a session.
There's a reason why I do it. And I don't spend, like, I'm not giving you, my dissertation when I give you the response. One is that having it in text for me clarifies it. Sometimes I'm not entirely sure what I feel. Sometimes it's a visceral thing and I like reject it, just like the paying for dates thing. It came up in text and I was able to put into words exactly how I felt and why. And that's a justification for me, a way of knowing what business I'm standing on instead of just the reaction, actually having a thought process that goes along with it. Why do you feel this way? I have been taken for granted. I have been financially abused. I also have thoughts about courtship and what makes me feel good in a relationship, value, right? Putting that in 200 words or less, for me, codifies it. It says, okay, no, it's not just a feeling, which we just dismiss out of hand, right? Because, like, feelings don't count when women have them. I made my case. And so that's not for them, but for me internally, so I don't walk around second guessing, because that's what I do. My thought process or my feeling process, or both at the same time, like, am I okay for this? And, like, am I a bad person? Am I, too radical? Like, does this make sense? Make it make sense. I do this self-evaluation, and because we didn't talk, and I don't want to talk about women's stances in this, but there are women who accept less and they make it harder on the rest of us. They are invested in the patriarchy, and so they go along with whatever, or they really want to be thought of as the cool girl, and they are killing it for the rest of us who know
And
our
that's,
worth.
internalized misogyny. I was that. I was one of those. I was one of those. I was absolutely one of those. I was like, oh, you don't, oh, if I want to go out and I want to pick and choose the restaurant, like I'll pay for the date. Like I'll pay for the bill. That's something I'll do for my partner if I'm spoiling him on his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But like I very much had that internalized misogyny. I looked down on women who required men to pay for dinner and pay for dates and shit like that. Because in my head, I'm like, you're a strong, independent woman. Why don't you pay for your own stuff? Like, no, those days are gone. Those days are
Yeah.
gone because quite literally, what is the point? I'm out and about by myself. I am out and about with my girlfriend. I am out and about with my family. So, quite literally, what is the whole point of me being out and about with you if you're not taking care of the bill?
I think the thought process for me started when I saw, like, this creator on TikTok.
Men, straight men, believe that they are competing with the top 10% of other men for women's affection. But really, what they're competing with is the peace that women feel in solitude.
And he says this, and it always bothered me. He says, women, like these men are thinking that they are competing with the top 1% of men when it comes to dating women. No, what they're doing is competing. And I know he stole this from probably a Black woman somewhere. They're competing with that woman's peace. And I'm going to take it a step further. No, you are actually competing with my joy. You are competing with my joy. I get up and I do what I want when I want to. And I spend money on myself when I feel like spending money on myself. Like, I'm happy. Would I like companionship? Absolutely. But you are competing with my joy. If you make me unhappy from the jump, from the very beginning, I know that sometimes from the chat, but sometimes it takes a first date and sometimes it takes a second and third date. This is what this third date is about. Like, I know what our relationship's going to look like. I know it from how you behave on these dates. The 3-4 hours that we're spending out and about, I'm paying attention. I am paying attention to almost everything that you do. I know where our conflict is going to be. I know if you are generous or if you're stingy. And that's another thing. I don't date conservative men. I don't want people to approach me with a scarcity mindset.
We've all, a lot of women, and a lot of people in general, we've worked too hard for too long to get to this place where we don't have to worry about whether or not when I swipe that card, it's going to get declined. I like where I'm at. If I want something, I go out and get it myself. I don't have to worry about whether or not my rent is going to be paid next month. That's a very nice place to be. That's a nice place to be. It's a great place to be. And so if that's not where you are in life, leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Yeah, no more community service.
We don't do struggle love anymore.
We're not doing struggle love.
We're not doing struggle love anymore. We're not doing make ends meet anymore. If that's where you are in your life, date somebody else. Go somewhere else.
My advice is, get right and don't do it off of somebody else. Oh, I wanted to hit this point. Like, I don't want our relationship to be transactional. All relationships are transactional. Unconditional love is for infants.
Unconditional love is from your mother.
I have conditions on my offspring. I do.
But like, you're still her mother. You're gonna love her regardless of what silly shit she's gonna do. But and I saw this with some like unconditional love is unconditional because I can love you from 5 streets away and I can love you from a whole country away. My love is unconditional. Access to me is totally conditional.
Yeah, like all relationships are transactional, and saying that they're not, like, you're immature. So all of this, I want you to love me for me, and I don't want to pay for sex. It's terrible. It's terrible because how are you making my life better? How are you making my life better?
Sex. Anytime somebody tells you that, just immediately right back was like, what makes you think that sex is on the table for you?
That's also another thing. But like, listen.
Like, what makes you think I'm even interested in having sex with you, let alone get paid for sex to have sex with you? Like, for me to get paid to have sex with you, I'd actually want to have sex with you. And that's not a thing. Money dissonance that a lot of people are having a hard time is like, if you don't have the time and you don't put forth the effort to invest in this relationship, right? That's time and effort. Those don't cost nothing. Just labor. Just labor and actions, right? And time and effort. If you don't have the time and effort to invest in me and invest in this relationship, monetary compensation, because why would I invest myself emotionally, financially, physically into this relationship if you're not taking care of it, if you're not doing the same, right? So a lot of people have a hard time with the word transactional because it's like, give me something and you get something in return, because they want reciprocal.
They don't want reciprocal.
They want that. This is the dissonance, because they, in their head, they think they deserve reciprocal. They think they deserve mutualism. Like, what is relationships? It's mutualism. It's symbiosis. It's take care of me and I take care of you right back. Pour into me and I pour into you. Like, this is how relationships work. But they're the whole conversation of like, well, what's in it for you? What's in it for me? That's transactional. So if you come at me with a transactional mindset, you're getting a transactional relationship from me.
And for me, you should like me just because I'm pretty thing that like these dudes be done. And I'm like, I'm pretty too. Like, what do you like? They really want a whole lot for nothing. They
If
want it
that's what
for
you want,
free.
if that's what you want, then let me put some fucking duct tape over your mouth because you're pretty until you open your mouth.
Yeah, like no, I no, honestly, like that whole thing that I went through with, my first service sub that did nothing for me, got angry. Like he got upset. I told you, if you want friends with benefits, because that's what he asked for, that's what you asked for. We negotiated for it. I needed to see some material benefit, and it had nothing to do with money. I needed you to solve a problem for me. I needed you to help me out. Like, and it had nothing to do with finances. It wasn't going to cost you a thing. It was going to cost you like some social capital. I wanted you to use your skill and your network
To
to
your
help
beard.
me, to be my beard. Yeah, like basically help me do something that I cannot
And
do because
he had no interest in being your friend. This is why I like this friends with benefits label. I think motherfuckers don't understand how to say.
words mean.
He had at no point, I've never heard you talk to me about, like, he has not done nothing to express that he was interested in being your friend. Because guess what friends do? They care. They
And
show
if I
up for
had
me.
a friend in the same industry, if I had a friend in the same industry and I asked my friend, would you do this for me? When I call you my friend, we're not acquaintances, we are friends. I would make that ask. And I know 100% of my friends would do it for me because they like doing me favors. I like doing favors for my friends. It's a reciprocal and transactional thing. So he had no interest in being friends and he had no benefit to me.
He had no
And
interest in doing anything for you.
I was
The
just
only time I've
supposed to.
ever heard about him, the only time I've ever heard you tell me about like things that he's wanted has just been like sexting, talking about sex fantasies. That is quite literally like all I heard from you about this individual.
Because that's like, and I told, like, I put the limit down. Thanks for your advice. I put the limit down on the sexting because I was like, this doesn't feel good to me. Got a dirty, filthy mouth. Like I can do that, but it doesn't make me feel good about myself. And I don't want the whole of any of my relationships to be sexual. I do not. I put a stop to it. And I said, this doesn't feel great to me. I'm not going to do it anymore. And then it was, well, I want to meet, I want to go out and meet women. And I was like, I can help you with that. I want to fix my FetLife because I get no response. I was like, I can make a very tasteful and artful and wonderful FetLife for you. I can do those things for you. Mutually beneficial, right? Like, and like I'm short on time, blah, blah, blah. My divorce, this, like all of this stuff, right? And I was like, I can accommodate all of those things. You know what I want? In the same breath, do you know what I want? I need your help with this. Did I get my help with that? No. Then why would I do any of the rest of that stuff for?
Instant gratification. And that's another pattern that you're seeing. They want their cake immediately and they want to eat it and have it too immediately. There's no slow burn. There's no build trust. There's no like build a foundation based on trust and respect and friendship. There's none of that. It's give me what I want. Give me. It's all about what I want.
I know, and I spelled it out for him.
I
said,
want
you want this?
tonight.
I can, yeah. Like when I see the pattern, I call it out. And while we were in texting, I was like, you say you want this, and you're listing that, and you want this, and you want the next thing, and you want this, and you want that. I have one ask.
I'm paying attention, and I'm paying attention.
And I'm paying attention. I know what
like,
I can
do we
keep
with. Score? Yep.
Yes.
I don't have a notebook the way you do.
But I have spreadsheets. I have tabs open. I have a notebook.
It's there. It's in the back of my mind. Because guess what?
Like,
I've 10 weeks. It took 10 weeks from the moment we met, talking and dates, 10 weeks. And my little bee person disappeared. Hasn't texted me back. And all I can think about is like, well, I'm glad I didn't sleep with you. I'm glad, because like it's consistency. It's like you looked good, you smelled good. I enjoyed being around you, but now I'm like, I'm watching. I'm taking note of effort.
So for the audience, what are your thoughts? Disagree with us. Like, I know that I have my stance and I'm striding on it and I'm not moving. When I say I'm standing on business, I mean it. I mean it. And I know that I have a visceral reaction when it comes to this money issue. I could be wrong. So leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are listening to this on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever venue that you have, you can leave your answers to the questions in a review. That would make us very, very happy.